So in the last video we just talked about the imaginary unit I, and in this video we're going to talk about complex numbers. So that's going to be what a real versus imaginary number is and what a complex number looks like, and then we'll get started with adding and subtracting complex numbers. In another video we'll do multiplying and dividing. So a complex number has both a real and an imaginary component. So we write it as a plus bi. So we write the real number first, and then the imaginary number. And remember, the imaginary has this I variable in it. That's the imaginary part of it. But it could have some coefficient here, and then the real number is just some constant number. So it could be 3 plus 4i. A real number is, again, just this a value, so it's really a plus bi when b equals 0. So if b is 0, 0 times I is 0, and we just are left with the constant. The imaginary number is the opposite, where a is equal to 0, so if there is no constant, then it's just the imaginary component. So if we have both of those, then it's called complex. So here we have two complex numbers that are being added. We have to treat this I as if it was any other variable, so you can think of it as x. So these are not like terms, right, because we've got a real and an imaginary component. And recall that I is equal to negative, or square root of negative 1. I squared is equal to negative 1. So when we're adding or subtracting, we really don't need these parentheses here. There's nothing to distribute, so we're just combining like terms. And that means combining the real components, so 5 plus 4. And then the imaginary components, negative 11i plus 7i. And we end up with negative 4i. And again, we always write the real component and then the imaginary. For subtracting, the only extra step we have to remember here is that, well, this is the same as plus negative 1, so we actually have to distribute this negative, or I just kind of read it as minus whatever's inside parentheses. So my real component's 8 minus 11 is negative 3, and 3i minus a negative 1, well, that's, if I'm doing negative 1 times negative I, that's a positive I, so 3i plus I is 4i.